recording. It's FideMaster John Curtis. Today I'm going to do a chess lesson, and we're going to review a game between the mighty Viswanathan Anand from India and Veselin Topalov. Okay, Veselin Topalov, and it's supposed to be one of the top 10 games ever played. So I'm really interested to have a look at this game, and I want you to enjoy it with me. So we're in the chess.com analysis room, and now we'll start the game. Okay, so it looks like Viswanathan Anand opens up with the move d4, queen's pawn opening, and Veselin Topalov replies with knight f6. Now, when I analyse these games, I don't analyse them from the point of view of a grandmaster, not looking at 100% accuracy, but try to understand the grandmaster's games and the moves they make and the reasons for them. So we just look at the basics. We look at the white's played d4, he has activated his bishop, okay, it's plain, and black's played knight there to just control the e4 square temporarily and have a bit of a fight in the centre. And also he's only got to make two moves, either e3 or e6, to move his bishop and then just castle. Okay, so that's the plan. c4. White wants to go and try to get some central space while black's just preparing to castle and get his pieces developed. Because black's obviously a move behind. e6, so he's only got one move now, black, before he can castle, and he's also got the option of giving a check on the b4 square, right? Knight f3. Now, if black was to give a check here, we'd have a Bogo Indian opening. Anyway, see, black elects to play d5, Veselin Topalov. And white replies with g3. I think I remember Larson playing a similar type of game here, and black played d takes c pawn, and b5 even was played. He captures it. I was only just trying to remember the game between the World Championship. I think it was the World Championship between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Carlsen. Now, I think b5 was played here. Maybe this might have been the original game. We'll just soon find out. I think he gives a check. Okay. And now bishop to d2. This is the closed Catalan opening now. And white's just interested in developing. a5, so black just holds his bishop there, and black's ready to castle, but he wasn't too keen on taking the bishop and encouraging the development of the white knight. Queen to c2 is played, just a small developing move, and he's got his eye on the c-pawn. Bishop takes bishop, and now queen takes. There we go. I thought knight takes was natural, but he's captured with the queen. And now c6. Is it possible that black's going to try to hold that c-pawn with b5? So white sees that he might have this plan and plays a4. That'd be Anand. Anand is the master positional player. b5 is played. And now you can see he's trying to hold the extra pawn. Knight to a3. This is a good move. It's a dual purpose move. It threatens pawn takes pawn and taking the b pawn. And at the same time, if black was to push the pawn to b4, then he could easily just capture the c pawn and have a good positional game as white. Bishop to d7. So black elects to just hold the pawn, and now knight to e5. And here we got this classic theme that Carlsen had also played And now, of course, the rook can move. You know how the rook's on a pin, right? You can see pawn takes pawn is a big threat because you can't take back because the rook will be on. But you can always move the rook here or something like that. We'll see what he does. We played knight there, so he's cut off. He's effectively cut off the white bishop from the attack on the rook. E4 is played, so he's chasing that knight away. And now knight to B4 is played. So the knight is making inroads into the white position now. Sort of starting to get a bit double-edged, isn't it? Okay, so white castles still. He thinks we've got a strong, solid position. We've got central structure. And black castles too. I think black's biggest threat would be something like rook a7, bishop e8, f6. Just see what takes place. Rook to d1, okay. White might be preparing a central breakthrough with d5, right? Pawn to d5. This could be a central breakthrough idea, and you can't, obviously you can't take with the pawn this way because this pawn would fall, then that pawn would fall. A lot of the pawn structure would fall like a house of cards. So the bishop goes on e8. That's what I thought might happen. And I think black's got the idea now of playing f6 and chasing that knight away. We'll see what takes place. d5. Queen to d6. Okay. So whether that's right or not, we'll soon find out what takes place now. Does white move the knight back? And it seems to be extremely passive, but it's got... He's still on all the pawns. Oh, he's got knight to g4. Now, I wonder what the idea of knight to g4 would be. Oh, I know what he's doing. He's threatening this move, pawn to e5. So black really must do something in the centre. He's saying you've got to do something. Black just moves up to queen to c5 and holds the pawns. So black doesn't want to... Knight to e3 is played now. Yeah, you notice that there's all this juxtapositioning of the pieces and all these manoeuvrings, and yet nobody is actually capturing any of those pawns on the queen side. They all want to take they're going to take the pawns. They'll take the pawns at the right time. So knight to a6. Now that completes black's development. So even if black gives one pawn back, just one pawn back, then black's still got full development and he's right in the game, isn't he? Pawn takes pawn is played. But now, oops, excuse me, yawning. Pawn takes pawn is played by black. Black's trying to get as much out of this as possible. Remember, black's knight can still go to d6. But unfortunately, this c pawn looks like it's weak now. This c pawn. Okay, so Viswanathan Anand plays knight takes c4. And now he's got a beautiful game. His pieces are beautifully placed. Now, material still counts for everything. So bishop takes pawn. Now let's have a look at, let's do a piece count here. Black's got 6 pawns and white's got 5 pawns. Well, black seems to have survived. He's survived all the complications and he's got an active position. But white's still got premier piece play position. It's still not easy, but I like rook to d8, but unfortunately this rook to d8 idea can't be played because queen takes rook check wins. So let's see what he does. Plays h6, he opens the back rank. So he might actually try to get the 2 rooks for the queen at some stage. I don't know. We'll just have to see what takes place. Knight to d6. Now white's not waiting. He's moving. He's making his move now. He's attacking this queen. He's saying, well, you've got to put it on a good square. My knight's on a lovely square. And now here we go. We've got this position here. This is a critical position because Okay, white's got well-placed pieces, but how can he improve his game? He's a material down. If they keep playing for some extended long period of time, then black's going to slowly wear white down and win with the extra pawn. So white must have a plan. So he plays knight to g4, and the plan seems to be to attack the black king. Knight takes pawn check. Looks like an extremely dangerous move, right? In his position, there's even chances of rook takes bishop and knight takes pawn check, right? So let's have a look and see what takes place. Rook to d1, knight takes pawn check. White's correctly assessed that in this particular position, it's impossible for white to win by taking pawns off on the queen side and trying to win the game on the queen side. So white's correctly assessed that he's got to go for the win or draw on the king side. But it does look a little bit like a win. We'll see what takes place. Pawn takes knight. Well, you have to take it, otherwise the position's just busted, isn't it? Okay, queen takes pawn, and now black. This is where black needs to defend, and it's not easy. It's not an easy defense. You can see all black's pieces are all congested over here, and the real action's going on over near the king side. F6 is played. The whole idea is he just wants to quickly play queen to g7 and change queens, I imagine, and win the game with his extra piece. E5 is played. Now this is really dangerous. It threatens knight to, it threatens bishop takes bishop. There's a direct threat already. Bishop takes bishop, right? So really you've got to take the bishop off. Yes. Pawn takes pawn. Oh my God, Viswanathan Anand, he's done a Zug. A Zug is an in-between move. And now what he's saying is, he said, well, you can now take the bishop back, you can save the bishop. But what I'm saying to you, my friend, is that you can't win the game. You can't win the game. So what does black do? Rook takes knight. That's correct. That's probably the only move to save the game. And now you can see white's got a draw. Oh, he hasn't got a draw. Check. Yeah, he's got a draw by perpetual check. Now, rook takes rook. White doesn't want the draw. So white had a draw. I'll show you the draw that he had. He had a draw with check here. Now, you can't put the queen in because queen takes queen mate. And if you move the king over, we give you a check to the king, and the king goes on h8, and then you've got to save your rook, so you'd have to go back, and that'd be a draw. So white had the draw, but he elected not to take the draw, right? He took the rook instead. So what white's saying is, I've got a draw, but I don't need to take it. Now have a look at black's position. He's got a bishop there, which is loose. He's faced with a draw, and he can play bishop e5. It stops the check, but we'll see what happens. He plays this move, bishop e5. Now, this is a masterpiece, this game. Rook takes pawn. Now, this is a dual-purpose move. It threatens rook takes bishop, right? It threatens rook takes bishop, and at the same time, right, it threatens it threatens rook to e7. Yes, so we're threatening rook here, right? And if the queen moves, it'll be checkmate there on that square there. Can you see that? Okay, so that's a threat. Now, you would think you could play queen to h2, but you can't. So he decides to attack the last rook and bring a knight into the play. black says, well, I can see you've got a check, but I'm desperate here. And what I'm after now is I want my check, which is queen takes pawn, checkmate. It's a big threat. So now he's saying, well, okay, you take my bishop if you want, but I've got a dirty big check here. So this is interesting, isn't it? Okay, so rook to c2 is played. He just stops them. He calmly, very calmly, stops the check on f2. Right, so this is now protected, this pawn. And now it's up to black to stop this move rook here. It's up to black to stop rook takes bishop. Okay? How do you stop both moves? Queen to h2. Okay, now watch the next move. This is a beauty. He's going to play check here. I think he'll play check here. Not sure. We'll see what he does. Can he play? Oh, he can play queen takes queen check too. He can, and there's a knight over there. So he's got lots of pawns. Oh, he plays pawn check. Oh no. Can you see where I'm looking at? If queen takes pawn, if rook takes pawn, right? Rook checks is mate. Rook there and rook takes rook checkmate. Okay? Right, so you've got to take with either, you've got to take with the king or the queen. Now, it's really bad. If you take with the king, rook to f6 check. If you take with the king, rook to f6 check, and after king here, queen takes rook check wins, right? Queen takes rook check wins. So you can't do that either. So you play queen takes pawn. Now, how does white proceed here? Well, rook takes bishop. Now white's on, remember this pawn's defended. White's on this move, queen takes knight over here. He's on a big rook check here, which is like a checkmating attack. So let's see now. Queen here, has he found the defense? White's actually attacking the rook, okay? And we'll see how black replies here. There's rook there. Now he's threatening checkmate here again. It's a terrible, terrible checkmate. And there's not much black can do in this position. It's actually very quite horrible, because if the rook goes in, white can simply play rook check, right? So you put the rook in, rook check, rook takes rook check, queen takes, and queen takes knight would win. Let's have a look and see what took place. Oops, I believe he's played rook here, and that's the end of the game. He resigned, because after rook here, rook checks, rook in, rook takes, rook check, queen takes, and now none of the pieces are defended. You can just give a little check here, and then if you put the queen in, queen takes knight, and now you're on this knight over here, and that piece will be lost as well, because you can't save that piece. If knight here to bring the knight over, there's a check here, and the knight falls, right? Can't go there. Queen takes knight check wins. And that's the end of the game. What a masterpiece. A positional masterpiece by Viswanathan Anand. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that game. Don't forget, please click the thumbs up button on the video. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe free on YouTube. Please become a subscriber. And I'll try to bring you more of these really interesting games. But what a masterpiece by the great world chess champion Viswanathan Anand of India. He was rated 2,787 for the purposes of this game, and his opponent Veselin Topalov was no slouch. He was actually rated even higher at 2,805. And I've brought you this game courtesy of the chess.com analysis board. Thank you, and bye for now. Okay? And I'll see you next time, either on Twitch TV at FM John Curtis Chess, or on YouTube in my next video. Bye.